Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Real Talk for Real Teens, hosted by Kim Creighton, or as she's known by the people who know her best, Mama C. The show where we uniquely combine the information teens need with the entertainment teens want.
Welcome to another show of Real Talk for Real Teens. As always, I am your host, Kim Creighton. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And this week we will be talking about teens and stress. And my guest this week is Kenitris Good. There's a lot I can say about Kenitris Good, but I'll let her introduce herself to you, and we'll move on. So welcome, Kenitris.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Kenitris Good. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm an intake clinician at Chicago Lakeshore Hospital.
Let them know what that is, because that's an interesting job. So just explain that, because maybe some of them don't know what a licensed, whatever you said was.
Well, basically, I work at a psychiatric hospital, and what happens is people come in, and they're usually in a crisis. And so I assess these people, and I determine what kind of help they need. So if they need help from detox, or we have kids come in who are depressed and suicidal, I talk to those kids, and I assess them, and I determine if they need inpatient treatment, what kind of outpatient treatment they need, any medication. We talk to the doctors about that. That's my job.
Okay, and I wanted to say that because I wanted people to understand that you are an expert. I mean, this is her field. This is what she does. So we're about to talk about teens and stress, and there's going to be a lot of great information for you. So let's jump right in. How do you want to start this conversation? Because I'm leaning to you as the expert in this area.
Okay. Well, I think that one thing I want to stress is that when we're talking about stress is that as we get older, we tend to forget, being adults, we tend to forget what teenagers go through when they're in high school, and we sort of minimize it. But it's very important to remember as adults that teenagers do have a stressful world. Their world is stressful. They're not paying bills and things like that, but they do have stresses in their life. Some of the things that are very stressful for teens, just at home, the things that they have to go through with their parents and the responsibilities they have. Maybe they have siblings. I've had to counsel several teens where they have the responsibility of taking care of their little brother and their little sister. And those are the things that we have to keep in mind when, these teenagers go to school or they come to us and they're starting to act out, and they develop this low self-esteem. They have a lot of things going on in their lives, and we tend to forget about how stressful being a teenager is.
When you spoke on siblings, that reminded me when I was working in the after-school program there in Chicago at the time. There was a young girl there, and the age group was 13. I think that was the oldest. She was extremely stressed. Her mom had put her in charge of her two younger siblings. And so even after school, she did not relax. She could not relax because she was so afraid. She was trying to make sure they were doing what they had to do. And I finally had to have a conversation with Mom and told her this was a parent-free zone for her. She is not those kids' parent. And this was the one place that she could come because those siblings were going to be taken care of where she could relax and be a kid. That girl was, her hair was falling out, all kinds of stuff.
And it's hard to see those things. And my job, the reason why I really like to focus on children and teens is because I think a lot of times they don't have a voice. And so it's good for us to step in and listen to them and make sure that we provide a support system for them. Stress is the body's response to really stressful situations, obviously. When things get overwhelming, we have a conflict with somebody else. And in teens, the conflict could just be, I like this boy, but he doesn't like me. Or it's something that adults see as very simple and not very important, but to a teenager, it's huge. Or maybe there's a loss in the family, or maybe they're overwhelmed. I remember when I was in school, I had so many activities I had to do. And one thing I want to stress to teenagers is that time management is very, very important when things are overwhelming. If you write things down and plan things out, it makes life a lot easier.
All right. You just spoke of, this is one of the reasons I also do the show and why I work with young people, because they do not have a voice. I've always said that it's like adults turn 25 and they forget what it was like to be a child, and I can't forget.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. I remember what it was.
Me either.
Very difficult time. And you're trying to, you're trying to negotiate and balance relationships that are very complicated and convoluted. One day your friend may like you, the next day they don't. You don't know what happened, what was said. All these things that usually we think don't normally happen in adult relationships are all taking place in relationships with young people, because they're still trying to figure out who they are. They're dealing with emotions, body changes, chemical changes, all kinds of stuff. And I say over and over again that adults, we live either in the past or in the future. We're forever stressed about the past, always living in the past, always stressed about the future. Young people live totally in the moment. They live totally in the present, and most of the time they're living totally from emotion. So
they're always reactive to whatever the situation is.
Yes. And so whereas adults become stressed about bills they have to pay or something that happened to them, young people it's like this when you're playing tennis or ping pong. They're just getting batted back and forth based on the situations that they're in, and they're not Serena and Venus. They don't know how to control the ball like John McEnroe, whoever these great tennis players are, even volleyball or whatever. They're at the whim of whoever hits it in whatever direction they hit it in. And I tell young people all the time, what you feel is valid. How you react or respond to what you feel may not always be in your best interest.
Right. One thing we definitely try to stress is that early on you want to start to make goals. And for an adult, that may sound like, oh, that's simple. I got to do this, and that. But for a teenager, it's like, what? They call me Miss K, so they'll say, Miss K, I don't know. I don't have a goal. What do you mean a goal? So I think it's very important to try to teach teenagers to develop these goals, even something really simple, just a day-by-day thing. Like today, it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be something really, really serious. But just to start really simple, I try to encourage them to develop a goal that they can meet. And at the end of the day, we discuss the goal and we talk about, what was difficult in reaching that goal. What kind of stressors did you face? And usually it ends up, pretty good at the end, and they realize, like, hey, this could be helpful.
Well,
but it's also
go ahead.
It's also about being consistent, making sure they have a good support system, because I think a lot of young people don't have a support system.
Fix your mic right quick.
Okay. Is there?
That's better.
Yeah. I think a lot of teenagers don't have a really good support system, or just children. They don't have a good support system.
One thing I can say, what I can say about that is, parents or adults in their lives aren't challenging them to practice skills that they'll need in adulthood. And goal setting and those things are those things. And that's, again, I tell you guys over and over again why I do this show. Because in the effort of my parents to take care of me and make sure I was safe, they did not prepare me for the real world. So at 18, and I'm forever hearing teenagers, I'm 18, I'm grown. That means absolutely nothing.
Oh, yeah.
At 18,
nothing at all.
I was hit with the world and did not know how to do anything. I did not know how to, and you and I have had this conversation, how to make a decision. And so you sit back and second guessing yourself causes stress. So when you're talking about goal setting, I think that's just start as early as possible, age appropriate. A
Definitely.
kid can start making decisions without you stepping in. Hey, we have to be somewhere at this time. This is what time I need you to be ready. So
definitely,
they need to learn, this is what time we need to be ready. If I'm ready, that's a good consequence. If I'm not, then there's a negative consequence that comes to that, and then parents need to follow through on that. And as they get older, they bump up the ante on what the decisions these young people need to make.
Right, exactly. And, there's a preparation. That way when you reach 25 and 30, you're not freaking out when you have to, decide something, or when you have to, pay the bills or take your kids here and there. You don't have to worry about that because you've been prepared, because you set goals as a teenager and you've learned how to deal with the negative and the positive consequences that come with that.
Exactly. And it's all those. It's all about practice. I mean, we don't get
right.
You just like your ordeal with driving. When you first
started
driving, when you first started driving, you were a nervous Nelly. Now, after
nervous wreck.
We won't use wreck because you didn't have one, which is good. And But look how much stress. I mean, let's talk about that. Let's give that as an example, because you put yourself under a lot of stress in that situation.
I did.
And to someone like me, it was, oh my God, it's just driving. But to you,
right.
It was so big, and that goes back to your first statement about how we trivialize the things that young people go into. I mean, are dealing with. So why don't you just talk about why that situation was so stressful for you and how you've been able to move through it?
Well, the situation was so stressful for me because my mom made it like this huge deal. She's not ready. I'm just too afraid of everybody else. So she put off as long as possible teaching me how to drive. So I had to go out and find my own way and find somebody else to teach me how to drive. And so years passed, and now I'm in the big city, Chicago, and I basically just jumped into the driving. I made this goal and said, okay, I'm driving. This is going to happen. And I got out there, and all of a sudden I was immediately overwhelmed by all the things that happen while you drive. Everybody else making these turns and honking at you and cursing you out, and I just had like this complete meltdown, and Kim was there. I just had this complete meltdown because I just felt so stressed and overwhelmed, but I had the support of Kim, and I, slowed down my breathing and really tried to, regain my focus, because it was something that I wanted to conquer and it was something that I wanted to achieve. And now I'm a lot better at that. And, I take my time, and every time I get ready to get in the car, I process it, I slow my breathing, and I say, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to drive in the big city, and it's going to be okay. And sometimes, just with anything else in life, you have to face it that way.
And that's what I wanted to tell that story, because, yes, your job is to evaluate these young people and to tell them, determine what medication or inpatient or outpatient, but you're still human. And there was something that caused you a great deal of stress that, the average person is like, come on now, drive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's always good to personalize things. I do that with some of the patients, and just to let them know that I'm human as well, and I do make mistakes, and I do get nervous, and I get stressed out, and it's difficult, but we all go through it, and it also shows that you can go through it. There's another side to it. The end is great, once you figure it all out. Once you've gone through the event, the stressful event, you realize what the outcome is. You get to the outcome, and you're happy for it. You're a better person for it.
And one of the things that really helps me is really just to understand where the stress comes from. Because I don't want to say legitimate stress, but is this life or death, first of all? And if it's not life or death, then it's something I need to work through, because it's a lesson. There's a lesson somewhere in that, because when you're standing on the front end of a stressor, let's say when you were learning when you first, because you didn't say this part, it was years from the time you learned how to drive to the time you actually were able to get in the car by yourself. So that's where the uncertainty came. And then you learned in Georgia where everybody's driving slowly, and then you start in Chicago where, the parking spaces, you better get in if you want. You better figure out how to get in.
Exactly. And people
U-turns are the norm. Jaywalking is what everybody does. And there's so much to take in. But, and so that was, like when you said that first time, but once you move through it, you realize, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. We kind of build up in our heads, and our bodies take control. And that's what I want to start talking about now, because stress is a chemical thing. It's just not the psychological and the stories. It's what you're telling your brain some things start happening in your body physiologically. Can you speak to that?
Right. Yeah. What happens with stress is, and everybody experiences stress physically in a different way. So you may be the person that has headaches, or the person that has stomach aches, back pain. There may be nausea or shaking. Maybe you have like an unstable mood. One moment you're really, really excited and you're happy, and the next you're just completely irritable and frustrated, and you can't concentrate. Your memory is off. This is what happens with stress. It is huge, and sometimes people they mistake it for other things. Like, oh, well, I'm just tired. Well, yeah, that, fatigue is probably coming from the stress, the chemical in your body that creates stress. Also, there's your inability to concentrate is very, very important. Like, the people underestimate that, but when you start to lose focus and you start to, I know I was when I was in school, I was working 40 hours a week. And all of a sudden, I just started making some of the smallest mistakes, some of what I would consider I would call them the dumbest mistakes with things. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've never done this before. I need to take a step back. And it really does mess with your concentration and your memory. So it's very important to.
And also when you talk about that stress hormone, it actually has a negative impact on your arteries, in your heart,
and in your brain.
Oh,
definitely.
So it deals with, it's real. It's not something that's imagined. So it's like your body is creating this chemical that's causing, because it's the fight or flight hormone. It's that whole thing, again, when I say, is it life or death? Am I going to die from this? No, then I need to face it. Because your body is reacting to it. And our bodies are not our bodies were not made to be under constant stress. Fight or flight was that momentary, you need to either make a decision to get in, to run or stand and fight right then.
Or to stand, exactly.
But we live lives where we're in that constant state all day long. Everything from which toothpaste to pick out, from studying for an exam, we turn everything into such that fight or flight thing. And our bodies cannot withstand that kind of stress.
And the thing is, stress is absolutely necessary. It is. It's when we go into a state of distress, when it is we're in a moment of crisis, and we need to seek some help. We need to have some support with this. Everybody is stressed, and it's okay, because that's how we get things done. But when it goes into a point where it's distress, that's when you need to find support. You need to talk to your counselors, teachers, your best friend, your mom, your dad. These are the things that you need to start to do when you realize, hey, this isn't good. My hair is falling out. I have a patch missing. I don't want to eat anything. I'm sleeping all day. Like, these things are very serious, and stress will definitely make other things worse. So maybe you have a common cold, but it won't seem like that, because it'll be more extreme. It'll be worse than what.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll take longer to get better. Exactly.
You had a common cold, and all of a sudden you're in the hospital with pneumonia.
Exactly. It breaks down your body.
Yeah. And you were just saying, let me think about what you just said that triggered something for me. Okay, keep talking. I didn't usually writing down, but I didn't, so keep talking.
Yeah. No, I was just talking about how we go into a state of distress when too many things happen. Yeah.
Okay, so think about also when, because she said, first of all, stress was necessary. It is. That awareness for you. Because a lot of times, because I'm going to tell you, I keep moving in life. I'm starting this business. I'm moving. Sometimes it takes that stress to happen in my life for me to become aware that, hey, something's out of balance. Because I'm not even paying attention to what I'm doing. So that's the benefit. That's what she's talking about, the benefit of stress. It's when it becomes something that I can't control my emotions or whatever. And what made me start thinking about that is think about young people. All the times you've done something, so if she's saying if stress causes you to be irritable, lack of sleep, sick, and all this, think about choices you make when you're stressed that negatively impact your life. Think about, to the extremes of people. Okay, let's just talk about it. I'm just going to talk about these young people who lately who are going to these schools and killing people, who, because that's what everybody wants to talk about. They want to talk about gun control. They want to talk about mental illness. They want to talk. What they're not, I think, getting to is one of the real causes of, and there could be true mental illness, but there are a lot of times is the stress. People aren't thinking clearly.
Right.
They can't think clearly.
Right.
So there again, you're dealing with emotions because young people deal with right now. Even if it's something that's planned, they're in this perpetual thing of whatever that feeling is. The feeling just doesn't go away. So if they're angry, they don't have moments of joy mixed in, because you can be angry, but most people are not angry all the time. And so
exactly.
If you're working in that space, you can only come up with solutions that you deem or you think will alleviate that anger. Anger is not a mental illness. Anger is an emotion. Let's start practicing how to effectively deal with our emotions.
Deal with the anger. And that's exactly what one of the things that we address, just therapists anywhere, they address how you handle. We definitely like to normalize that anger is normal. Everybody gets mad. It's okay. But there are ways that you handle these things. There are ways that you handle the sadness so that it's healthy and that it gets you to a better place. And when we look at when individuals handle it in a negative way, their negative coping skill, which is to cut, or to, fight all the time, or
see that a lot.
To switch it. There are some people who have, the healthier coping skills, where they go and they talk to people about it, or they maybe they need a moment to cry out. That's fine. But we definitely want to normalize anger. Anger is okay. Stress is okay.
And then a lot of – go ahead.
I was just going to say, we were talking about distress is the negative form of stress. And eustress is actually called eustress, E-U-T-R-E-S-S. Eustress is, E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S. And eustress is the positive stress. So that's the positive stress that we need, the motivator we need to get things done, to make sure that, we are making our appointments on time, like you said, studying for this test, doing things. You were preparing for your radio station. You needed that positive stress to keep going. So stress is not a bad thing. When it goes into distress, that's when it's negative, and eustress is the positive stress. So just to make that clarity.
And there are people out there who, as you say, are equipped and trained to help you. Because it might not even just be anger. It could be a plethora or a lot of emotions. When you're talking about the loss of somebody, sadness. And when you're depressed for longer than what clinicians think is quote-unquote normal, that's the reason they try to prescribe pills or medication is because your brain chemistry has changed. So let's say someone you love and care for. Let's just talk about real. Okay, so your boyfriend and girlfriend dumped you. They are dating somebody else now. So it's normal to be sad when you wake up the next day and you realize this relationship that was that you cared about, this person you cared about, this relationship was important to you, is now over. That's normal. What happens? So that's in normal ranges of the stress and the sadness. Where people become concerned is when you're a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months.
Right, exactly.
Feel sad, and see what happens with the chemicals is now. Okay, so the first few days, it was just you were upset because of the situation, and that made sense.
Right.
If you continue down that path, what automatically happens because of your brain, you just wake up sad. So it's not even about the relationship anymore. Your brain you have conditioned your body to when you wake up, you're just sad. And so that's why you might not be articulated to a counselor such as Kenitris or your school counselor. You just say, when they ask you questions, you're like, I don't know, I'm just sad. Because you don't even probably remember what started it, because that was months ago.
Right. And we also have to, being the adults, we have to be able to identify that, sadness and depression and all those things that stress lead to, it looks different in teenagers. So teenagers may act out, they may run away, they may fight all the time, and really what it is that they're sad, they're depressed, something triggered this, something really hurt them, and a lot of times what I find is when I get them alone and I talk to them, this is when they start to let their true feelings out. They don't know why they're fighting. They don't know why they're running away. They don't know why they're, engaging in risky behaviors. They don't understand the differences in mood, but it goes back to the hormones, and we need to make sure that we understand those things and that it looks different in teenagers. It looks very different. It doesn't. Exactly. It may not be they're lying down all day for hours. They're not sleeping. They're not eating. Yes, that is what it looks like sometimes. But for teenagers, it can look a variety of different ways. Yeah.
Because the last, as I was telling you before the show started, over the last month, I've been actively working with a parent who has a the girl keeps running away. And she keeps running away, and she's prostituting. There is no good reason for her to be doing that. She does not come from an abusive household. I mean, all those things that people normally would say, oh, that's the condition of it. No, she's just sad.
Right.
She's just upset, and I'm having a challenge still trying to figure out what's the trigger for it, because she can't even articulate. She's just doesn't want to be home. She doesn't want to be around her mom, and so she just keeps running away. And so there is, and I keep saying, but there's something that started. You didn't just wake up one day. So what triggered it? And she can't even articulate. And so she can't even explain her behavior. It's like, do you want to be on the street? No. So why do you keep doing it? I don't know.
Well, if you remember, there's a lot of conflict in, adolescent years. You're trying to discover who you are, as well as trying to please your parents, and then you're also trying to please your peer group. Like, this stuff is stressful. Like, I'm tired of people who doesn't want me to be, my mama wants me to do this, I want to do this, and so in the end, it comes to, again, this fight or flight, and they run.
Yes, and that's exactly what she does when situations get stressful with, because she was in counseling, they was coming to her house, and 30 minutes after the counselor left, one time she ran away. It's just that whole, I can't deal with this anymore. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to stop this. And it goes also when you were talking about that cutting thing. I just want some relief. I just need to relieve. I don't know what I'm feeling, but I just need some relief from that. So I'm going to cut myself, and I can feel that instead of that other thing.
Exactly.
Wow, it's a big. And when Ayani Good was on the show, she talked about, because she was assistant principal of a high school, she talked about how...
Yeah, I actually worked with her.
Yes, exactly. Well, if anybody doesn't know, Ayani, as I said in another show, is my mom, and Kanisha is my cousin. So we have a very talented family, and we have a history of working with you guys. So I would continue to bring on people I know and love and who I know will support you guys. And she kept saying how... what we saw over and over again, and as you guys know, I just left teaching high school, was either anger or depression. Those are the two main emotions that you guys have. And it's like, if people didn't know any better, they would think those are the only two emotions you have.
But you cannot take it at face value. You got to go a little bit deeper.
You got to go deeper. You got to dig. You got to go deeper.
Yeah.
And again,
it was always that.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I'm like getting a little bit of feedback. So.
Oh, okay. Is that better?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's better. Okay. So I saw some of the same things at the high school as well. It was always a fight, always somebody just ready. That's one emotion that teenagers are definitely comfortable with, is anger. They are quick to curse, fight, kick, whatever they have to do. It is fight. And a lot of it has to deal with some of the environments that they come from, which I understand that.
Yeah.
Especially in Chicago, there are a lot of gangs.
Adults in their lives react to stress. So
them, right.
Yeah, and that's also a very tangible emotion. I can be angry. Gives me power, as opposed to me being sad.
Right.
That's seen as
because I'm vulnerable. Yeah.
Exactly. And you're vulnerable.
And they say that all the time.
And you're vulnerable in both cases, but the facade is different. You put on this shell of "don't fuck with me" when all you want is somebody to come up and hug you, and you can lay your head on their shoulder and just relax. And that's
definitely. And when I worked I also did an internship at a juvenile detention center, and I worked primarily with gang-involved males, and it was just so humbling to me that they would come into the office, and all they really needed, there was no longer that hardcore, gangbanger that everybody fears. They come in the office, and they cry, and they let out everything that's stressing them out. And I think that's really beautiful about what I do. I'm able to bring out a different side of these kids and show everybody else that, they're human. Yes, they have these problems, but you cannot just write them off and say, oh, she bad, she this, she that. We have to have a better understanding of what's going on with our teenagers and kids.
I also like to make sure people understand when I'm working with young people, because we all seem to have these positive reactions to young people that other people don't seem to have. And because you and I have talked about this, and my mom has talked about this. And what it is, and this is the difference, I'm going to correct their behavior. It has nothing to do with who you are. I'm not saying you're a bad person. Your behavior is inappropriate. So let's separate the child or the teenager from the behavior. You don't throw away a child. You don't throw away another human being. But I can sit, and because I would tell that's why they call me Mama C. I would tell these kids, these sons and daughters of mine in a heartbeat, I love you, but there are consequences of what you just did. So you're going to have to deal with that. I don't care about you got attitude. I don't care about any of that. I'll let them calm down and say, what you just did was so screwed up. Your behavior was out of line. And so I'm going to address that behavior. And when I'm done, you're going to give me a hug. And when you tell me no, I'm going to explain to you yet again, you never withhold love just because you're angry. You don't do that.
Exactly. And I think they do need positive examples.
Oh, yes. Because they're so used to, if the parent is mad at them for something they did, get out of my face. Don't talk to me right now. And there are moments for those. Because sometimes you need to just say, hey, you just need to go on somewhere. But there are also...
It's okay to take a moment.
Oh, yeah. Because you don't want to escalate the situation. You don't want to make it worse. Because that's another reason why you have people getting beaten, abused, and stuff, because the situation has going way too far. And they don't know how to control their emotions. I mean, I'm going to be honest. There's some times when I've had to just grab a kid just to shake, just to get that attention, because they're so not there. They're not present anymore. They're so angry. They're going to such extremes that I just got to just hey, get in their face so they can just
listen,
back to reality, because they're so not present. They're not even, you can see it in their eyes. They're not even there anymore. And once you do that, it's like, okay, let me correct the behavior, but I still care about you. But the behavior needs to, and what's happened in the past, a lot of times is in the correcting the behavior, it's you are bad. No, your behavior is inappropriate.
Right. And there are things we can do to, help you improve and help you find other ways to express yourself. It doesn't have to be,
with that, there are consequences to your behavior. Because I see it extremes. You ain't crap, your daddy ain't crap, da-da-da-da, I see that. And then I see the whole, well, why do you do that? You shouldn't have done that. So it's like either they all or nothing, and there has to be a balance. Why do you do that? Sometimes I don't even care why you did that, because like the young girl who I told you ran away, she got up in the middle of the night and started unscrewing all the hinges off doors and the cabinets in the kitchen. So her mom's trying to give me an explanation of what she told her. There is nothing you can say that's going to make sense to me about what she did, so I don't want to hear the explanation. It makes no sense. Any person who that thought would have come into their head would have said, you know what, that's some stupid stuff. I'm not about to do that. But for her, she was, again, disconnected from logic. So why am I going to even try to understand or reason with that? What I need to do is make sure we're back on the same page again. There are going to be consequences to your action for unscrewing all the hinges on all the stuff in the house for some god-awful reason. And then we'll get back to when you're feeling that way, what's the more appropriate thing for you to do?
Well, when I hear you, talk about that, what I hear is that she definitely wants somebody to pay attention to her. I want some attention. I need somebody to talk to. And they do some of the things that we'd be like, why did you do that? That don't make sense. But to them, this is how I get attention, whether it be negative attention or if it's positive. I love you, I hug you, or get out of my face. Why you do this stupid crap? Either way, I'm getting attention.
It doesn't matter if it's positive and negative, because
exactly.
It's about training.
And that happens at a young age.
Yes, and it's about training or having them practice doing things for positive attention, because we all like to be praised. And it's not about ego.
Yes.
That's just what we all thrive on, positive reinforcement. So it's about, because they know me, if you do something off the wall stupid, we're not talking right now. So you can go on over there until you figure out what you did, and you're going to correct that, because now you're old enough to be able to say, hey, I apologize, or whatever you need to do, all this situation, all the havoc you wrecked, you need to fix that before you and I can talk. And so once that gets fixed, I'm going to praise you, good. Now let's move to the next level.
Right.
But we're not going to have a conversation.
I think it's important to hold them accountable.
Yeah, we're not going to have a conversation where you ranting and raving and acting a fool. No, that's not going to happen.
Communication is huge, and that's how some teenagers communicate, because they don't know any other way to.
Exactly.
And then grown people communicate that way too.
Almost.
They think it's okay.
These kids aren't coming out the womb like this. They're somebody's modeling this behavior for them. Be it in the home or people around them, and so it's that first instinct, they go from 0 to 20 over any little infraction, because that's what they know. Exactly.
It's like let me get loud first so that I can show that I'm winning.
Yeah.
And no, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. And it takes a lot to grow to this thing I say all the time. Do I want to be right, or do I want to be happy? Sometimes I am absolutely right, and sometimes I just have to say, you know what? It's okay. It's okay if I walk away from this.
Right.
Because it's not in this argument. It's not going to do me any good, except the fact that I won this argument. Is it going to add anything to my life? Absolutely not. So you know what? You can have this. A lot of young people can't do that, and I can say that's because a lot of older people can't do that either.
Right, and we have to teach them early on to be able to do that. And it does start with communication, letting everybody know what your needs are in an appropriate way. And it amazes me when
what your needs are, and so I want you to finish that statement, but I want to back up, because a prequel to letting people know what your needs are you identifying what your needs are first.
Right.
So
and probably not.
But how would that? If we're talking about being proactive, okay? So we're talking about how stress looks and all that. So let's come up with a plan. Let's come up with how do you figure out what your needs are? I have a formula where I say, sit down and figure out who you are, what you value, and what your boundaries are. Those figure out those three things, who you are. I mean, I'm not talking about male, female. It's like, who are you?
Exactly.
If you're a Christian, I'm a child of God. If you're Muslim, I'm Buddha. Whatever it is, I am. This is who I am. I am smart. I am intelligent. I am bright. I am creative. What those things are. And then your values. These are the things I believe. These are the things that keep me moving forward. These are my values. And then what are your boundaries are. And what your boundaries are those things when the world around you or even yourself start to encroach on those values. So you can call yourself out when you're doing something based on your values, that your boundaries, and you're like, wait a minute, this is not something I believe in. Why am I doing this?
Right. And it's a great question to ask yourself, who am I? And a lot of times when I start off, I ask someone and say, well, who are you? How do you identify? How do you describe yourself? They say, Miss Kay, I don't know. What do you mean? What is respect to you? How do you see the world? That is the first question, and it is the hardest. It is the most difficult question.
Because most of this anger and depression and fighting and stuff comes from, he disrespected me. Well, you don't even know what respect is for you. So how can he disrespect something you haven't identified?
Exactly. Well, show me. How do I respect you? What do you mean by respect? These are the questions that all teenagers, all people should be pondering, to have a less stressful life, like one where you don't go into distress so often. You can avoid distress. You don't have to go into crisis every time something comes up. And if you ask yourself these questions like, who am I? What am I searching for? What are my values? You're right, absolutely right. What are my boundaries? Because a lot of people don't know, how far to go or what they will accept from other people. That's where I always tell them.
Go ahead.
I always tell my teenagers, learn the word no.
Yes.
Practice it.
Oh my God.
Practice it with your best friends.
I'm going to tell this story because growing up, people thought, oh, that's just mean. That's just mean. I would say no often. And people were like, Kim, you're not being nice. Who said saying no was equated to niceness? I can remember going to nightclubs with my cousins when we were club hopping, and a guy comes up, and I would say, no, nothing personal. I'm looking at you. You're not something I'm attracted to, so why am I going to continue this conversation? So my cousin was like, oh, my God, that's so mean. You're not being nice. Okay, well, why? He's leaving me alone. He's following behind you the whole night, even though you don't want to be bothered with him anymore because you can't say no. There are 100 women in here. He's going to go to the next one.
Mhm.
Or
I promise you, if you learn no, good.
I mean, I'm at work and there's a project that needs to be done. I'm going to tell you within the parameters of what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. And I'm willing to deal with the consequences of that. What I'm not going to do is help you do your job because I'm not going to do that. What I can do is support you in doing that.
Exactly. And that's another thing I want to really highlight when we talk about stress is self-care. Like, if you are not around for yourself, then you can't really be around for anybody else. If you're not taking care of what's going on with you, you can't possibly take on what somebody else has going on. It does not work effectively.
Well, it also goes back to the old saying, you cannot give what you do not have. So everybody was talking about, oh, I love you, but their behavior to themselves is not loving. So you can't possibly love somebody else because you don't know how to love yourself or respect, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. You cannot. I mean, let's look at it in very, very literal terms. You cannot give $1 if you don't have $1. That's just bottom line. Right.
Exactly. You can't be like, yeah, I can give you $1.50, and you only have, 50 cents. Like, it doesn't work.
Love and stuff doesn't work on credit. So now I can borrow $1 to give you, but I still don't have $1.
Right. You're still not in a good place.
Exactly.
You always have to take time out for yourself.
Yes. And I like and it's not about, because most people equate that to selfishness, and I love the word, because Ayana used the same thing. Ayana used the same term, and I love the term self-care, because it's not being selfish when I take care of myself.
Exactly. I think it's selfish when you're not taking care of yourself, and you've neglected who you are to take care of everybody else, but now you have nothing. You have nothing, and it's okay when you're in a good place and you've been self-actualized and you're there. It's great when you're there and you can help other people. But if you're not there emotionally, physically, in life, you can't do it. So self-care is first and foremost.
And it's also
one of the
about
biggest
people learn lessons about what you do and not what you say. So you can talk about how much, I love myself. I'm just this, and that. But I'm going to look at your actions. All them words mean absolutely nothing. So
exactly.
When I'm looking at young people, especially ones who I can spot, I can go because I do lunch duty, so I can go in during lunch duty and I can just sit there, and my other peers, the adults around me, are wondering, how did I pick out that something was about to happen or that I noticed something? Because I'm just observing people's behavior, because I don't care what you tell me. I'm looking at what you're showing me, and that's how people learn.
What you're doing.
That was one of the reasons I did a lot of things as a teenager that a lot of people did, because I learned from my friends' mistakes. I was one of them kind of kids. Oh, you did that, and you did. I don't like how that turned out for you. I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't have to go put my hand on the stove because it's hot. I believe you. You burned your hand. I'm good. So, and that's another thing. A lot of these kids who have all this bravado, fighting and I don't give a shit and all that stuff, those are the most insecure people.
Yeah.
And so teachers and stuff get put off by all of that because they see that as, oh, that's who they are. No, that's not who they are, because if you sit back and just watch them interact with other people, you can see it. They are the most insecure, unloved. They don't know anything about self-care. They might be clean from head to toe, got the best weave in, everything. I don't look at that.
Right. And that's exactly what the behavior that they exhibit is meant to do. It's meant to put you off and put you away, and put you in a mindset where you're like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. That's part of it. That's what makes it useful for them. But when you're one of the ones that go and you penetrate that behavior, you're like, look now, I know this isn't you. Let's talk about what's going on. Why are you so angry? Those are the ones that really you're able to reach out. They love that. They love that support. They love that you came and you didn't get scared because they were yelling at you and threatening you. They respect you more for that, and they learn more from that when you go and you confront that behavior.
Oh, and also in that space, they also have to learn that there are boundaries as well, because I'm going to go in, I'm going to put on my armor where everybody else is, or adult around me is scared of you. I'm going to take the hit on this. I'm going to put on my armor and I'm going to go in. But I have and so there are some things about me that I'm not going to let you cross. So I wish you all the best. But if you cross boundaries with me, then I have to protect. I have my own self-care, and I have and young people need to understand that, because they go through people who care about them like toilet paper.
Yeah, they do.
At some point, you're gonna have to stop and just be honest with yourself, because you're not doing it for me, because I got my life together. You're learning these things for you. So in the last few minutes, we have about 13 minutes left. So let's talk again.
We have 13 minutes left?
Yeah, see?
Huh? You said we have 13 minutes left?
Yeah, in the last 13 minutes, I want...
Okay.
See, that went by quickly, didn't it?
It did.
See, I told you. I said every time I say, hey, in the last few minutes, people are like, what? So in the last 13 minutes, I don't want to stop you at 13 minutes, and now we're at 12. It's because I really want to give a plan. So if you're a young person, you're really stressed. You're dealing with stress that's not, quote-unquote, normal, where you are can't sleep, you're not eating, you're angry, you're depressed, you're sad, you're losing weight, your hair is falling out, you're getting sick, those kind of things. Let's give me a plan. So if this person sits down, comes in your office and sits down, what do you do and what do they do? And
right.
I'm not talking
At
about
that point,
I'm not talking about your psychotic, the ones who really need mental care. I'm talking about your average stress. Okay.
Right. At that point, to me, this person is in distress, and I think it's great that they have come and they sought help. They came and they talked to the counselor. If this is something, and a lot of times when you go in, you talk to your school counselors, parents. It's good to provide support as a parent, as a role model for young people. You definitely make sure you listen with a non-judgmental ear, and you just let them know that, hey, I'm here for you, I support you. They can even write it down. A lot of times it's hard to say things out loud, so it's definitely a good idea to write things down. You can write a letter to the person you go and see, the counselor. If someone was to sit in front of me and I would talk to them, I would develop a plan. Like, tell me, what is making you sad? We talked about what's going on, what triggered this, and we would try to develop a plan, whether it's time management, whether it's increasing communication at home. It definitely depends on the person and what plan you need to develop so that they could start to feel a little bit better. In more extreme cases, they may need to go to, the nearest, see the closest therapist. And, again, earlier we were talking about there's a chemical imbalance when it comes to depression, and they may need to get medication on the more extreme side. But if it's just I'm sorry?
You said if it's just your,
if it's just your, Right. If you're just at school and you're dealing with a stressful situation, don't keep it together. Keep it in. Go to your counselor's office, talk about it, and as a counselor, as an authority, make sure you're the one with the listening ear and the one that is definitely supportive. Everything you say has to be supportive, and you sit down and you write out a plan together and let them know that this is a team. We work together, and I'm going to help you through this.
Okay, so let's talk about, when you're talking about improved communication, what does that look like? Because it's easier said than done. So what does improve?
Oh, definitely.
How do I, as a young person, improve my ability to communicate?
First of all, you identify what you're comfortable with, and sometimes you don't know. So again, I give my the patients options. So either I can come and we can talk to each other alone. Maybe you like to write. Maybe poetry is your thing. If that's your way of communicating, then write me some poetry. Write a letter. Record yourself talking if that's something that I like to do. There are several ways that kids can communicate. Maybe it's by drawing. And again, it is easier said than done, and they take a couple tries before it gets to a point where we're getting somewhere. But definitely encourage communication.
I wanted to talk about that because it's not always, because it's often, because you're talking about at home, it's often scary to go to your parents and say, hey, I need to talk about other. So, that's why I tease that out a bit, because if you gave your parents, walk up to them and say, hey, this is a picture of some thoughts that are in my head, that's a great way to start a conversation. Or, hey, this for me. This is something I've been thinking if it's a poem. And then they might say, hey, what do you mean by that? I mean, it's the start of a conversation. And
exactly.
And that's all you're trying to do. Even with your counselor, whoever, your mentor, whoever, minister, priest, pastor, rabbi, whatever it is, it's about you taking initiative. Because first of all, once you do that, you can get some of that power back. You're now doing what we talked about with self-care, because now you're taking care of yourself. So you feel your self-esteem kind of goes up because, hey, I'm doing something. I don't know what yet, but this feels kind of good.
Right.
You know? And then you can say, hey, let's build on this.
And what I used to do when I wanted to talk to my mom, and so I would write her a letter. I would write in a letter, and then I'd go and give it to her, and then I would leave. What they did was it allowed her to read it and have her reaction to herself so that I wouldn't feel judged or like I'm in trouble for anything. And then she'd call me back and she'd come talking about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that way you give her a little space to react and do what she needs to do depending on whatever it is that you need to tell her. You give her some time to process it, and then you guys can talk about it later. Now, it doesn't always happen that way, but it's good.
And with that, I need to also say, we're not talking Pollyanna. Sometimes you're going to tell your parents,
right,
they're going to go off.
Yeah.
You can't.
Exactly. They are.
That situation. Only thing you can control in that situation is your reaction or your emotions. You can't control how they're going to react. So just because you can't control how they're going to react doesn't mean you don't need to share. You don't need to be talking. See, that's a whole thing right there. People are so. You still need to get it out because it's not going to get any better. Trust me. It's just not going to get any better. So it's like you hold off, and you're letting your worst fears materialize. You're letting your stress get bigger and more. I don't know if you could call it deeper stress or whatever. You're getting more and more stress.
It builds and builds and builds. Yeah.
When you could have had a conversation, dealt with the body blow, dealt with getting cussed out, if that's what they're going to do. Just sit there, shut your mouth, and let them react how they're going to react. Let them get it out. And then, hopefully, that's the opportunity for you to have a conversation.
Right. Exactly. And I stress that, too. It's not always going to turn out the way you want it to. You can't control that outcome. You don't know if they're going to be happy or if they're going to, yell at you. But you need to be ready for the outcome. And I think, if you, as a teenager, as a young person, if you have somebody that you can talk to, say you need to tell your mom something. Really important. Run it by, a trusted adult first before you do that. And, just get some ideas. What should I do? How should I tell her? And know that you cannot determine the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, my boys and girls, they know. I will call. First of all, if I have not recognized, first of all, they know that if they've done something, I better hear from them before I hear from someone else. Because if I hear from someone else, we got a problem. We got a serious problem. You might as well. They come always with, okay, Mama C, you're not gonna be happy, but okay, and I can deal with that. But what I don't want is another adult or another kid or somebody to say, hey, did you hear blah, 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 blah. And then I can't, I don't like that. No. You need to be able to, and it's about dealing with adult issues, practicing to be an adult. Those are things you're going to have to do. Sometimes you're going to have to go to your supervisor and say, you know what, you're not going to like this, but this is how it is.
Right. Healthy confrontation. Confrontation is necessary.
Thank you. Thank you for using this for healthy confrontation. So explain that a bit.
It is definitely. Healthy confrontation is not just going up and saying, oh, I'm going to beat that bitch ass, getting real hype and, I need to tell her about herself. No, healthy conversation. If you have something going on with someone, it's okay to say, excuse me, can I talk to you for a minute? I really need to discuss this issue with you, X, Y, Z, and get it out. There's a healthy way to confront someone. It doesn't always have to be an aggressive, I want to fight, I want to kick and curse you out kind of way. Confrontation is necessary and it's healthy. I definitely think so.
Well, no, that's just life. Conversation is healthy.
Yeah.
And so also, and that's when you get the person who you don't walk up to and said all that, and you get popped in your eye, and you send back something she hit you first. She didn't. Yes, she may have hit you, but you attacked her first. That's what people don't get. Every fight I've seen, you've opened your mouth before you got hit. Yeah. Most of the time. Yeah. You have opened your mouth.
Again, they're in the moment. They haven't processed outcomes. So.
Exactly, and also because we said you can't control the reaction.
Right.
That's why you get popped in your eye, and now you fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Or she done called you a bitch because of what you said, and so now you mad because she called you that. No, you started this by how you approach this person. And
right. Yep. So I know we're getting close to the end here, so I just want to, for takeaway points, I want to make sure everybody knows that, stress is necessary. It's normal. It's something that everybody goes through. It's in the way that you handle it. And not handling it isn't an appropriate response either. It isn't healthy. Make sure you take the time to communicate with people that you trust and that will be helpful to you. That doesn't mean till Judy, your BFF, who's going through the same thing, and you guys are only 13. Make sure you're talking to someone who has a little bit of, experience in things. Make sure you work on time management. One thing that's helped me, even in my adult life, is keeping a journal and keeping a planner. I keep my mind, sane that way, and I make sure I get things done with my journal and my planner, and I have mostly stress-free day. And make sure that you're focusing on self-care. All these things are under self-care, and you develop positive ways to cope with things. If you like to read, do that. You dance, do that. I danced growing up. It was a great stress reliever for me. Find something that you love and that doesn't take a lot of energy to do, and it'll help you relieve your stress.
Wow. Thank you, Kenitris, for that. And we're out of time, guys. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you again, Kenitris. Take care and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for listening, and please join us each and every Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern for more Real Talk for Real Teens.